Well, welcome to the Butlers Races Grand National Preview. Now, 40 horses and 40 jockeys going to post for the world's greatest steeplechase. But my guest, he will not be going to post. Andrew Thornton, of course, misses out on the ride on Simon. More from Andrew in a few moments' time. Let's go back to the betting booth and join Matt Chapman and get the intended runners.
Yeah, thanks very much, Luke. Great to have you and Andrew on board for this Grand National Preview on all the W's at theraces.com. Who will run in the world's greatest race? Let's have a look at some of the weights and the leading contenders. Well, top weight Hedgehunter has been there, got the T-shirt, 11 stone 12. Our statistics later on in the show will define that is a hard weight to carry. Hi, Chloe. Well, if you're one of those mug believers who think 2.5 mile horses can win this race, then you'll be with Hi, Chloe. Nowhere. Well, it will probably be a road to nowhere for that one. Mr. Pointman loves the fences. Ollie McCain, that will be a scary ride for me. Noel for Healy going 1,000,000 miles to the first fence. No point the stewards telling Ollie McCain not to go fast. He's the likely early leader. Turco has the benefit now of Richard Johnson on board. Madison de Burley with 11 stone 9, big weight. Simon, will that benefit from the handling of Dominic Ellsworth? Opera Mundi, 11 stone 6. Our man was good at Market Raisin a few months back. Fundamentalist was a top-notch novice. Hasn't always been the safest jumper, though. Paddy Brennan got to get that one round. Butlers Cabin, meanwhile, has the champ Tony McCoy trying to win the race for the first time. And not a bad racing weight, 11 stone 3. Slim Pickings has been placed before, also on 11 stone 3. Chelsea Harbour, well, that was given, if ever a horse was given a school round in its prep race, that was it. Davy Russell rides for Tom Mullins. Vodka Blur, one of David Johnson's big hope at 11 stone 2. Hasn't been a good race for David in the past. Lami's got the class, almost beat Corto Star once upon a time. Snowy Morning was anti-post favourite after the weights came out and then has drifted like a barge. Bewley's Berry, Contraband, goodness only knows why he's in there, the former Arkle winner. McKelvey has been placed and has got a nice racing weight of 11 stone. Joachim 10 stone 13. Point Barrow's a decent stare, 10 stone 13. Cornish Rebel goes for Paul Nichols, one of his clan. And Darjon, well, we could all do with a bit of money, 10 stone 12 for Alan King, who's had another tremendous season. No Fool, 10 stone 12. Bailey Breeze, 10 11. Bob Hall. Cloudy Lane, the anti-post favourite, will have about 100 stone if the handicapper could rejig the handicap. 10 stone 11, though, for Trevor Hemmings, who simply adores the race, the owner. King John's Castle, 10 stone 11. One or two people have gambled that anti-post. Monmone jumps pretty well. Cornish Set, 10 stone 10. Naunton Brook at 10-10. Tumbling Dice at 10-10. Backbeat at 10-9. Comply or Die, the Newcastle Ida winner, 10 stone 9, will stay all day but at a very slow one pace. And what about a bit of what you like, Luke? Idle Talk, 10 stone 9. We go on to Kalami, Melandia Mill, Nadover, Black Appalachie, Filson Run. Nick Williams, he loves training horses who stay further than 4 miles. Well, Filson Run certainly does that. Dundera, Ardahi, Joe's Edge, who's got a bit of class down the bottom of the weights. In the high grass, Longshanks and Osmosis. Those have all got to get a run, of course, come the day. So a fascinating handicap, Luke. It's the big one. It is the 2008 Grand National, and we're going to tell you on all the W's at theraces.com with Luke who's going to win.
Let's hope so, Matt. It's not very often I agree with you, but that point about 2.5 mile horses in the race, absolutely spot on. Cannot win if you only get 2.5 miles. Andrew Thornton, my guest. Now, first off, commiserations, you're going to be missing the race. What's your record in the Grand National?
Luke, I've had 11 tries at it, and I've had 1 4th place. That's as good as it's got, and my early chances at the race were probably better than my latter.
And what about actually getting round? Have you got round a lot, or have you?
The worst I've got is Bounce Back. He fell at the 6th fence at Beeches. I was hoping he was going to be 4 before that because I knew his fate. He fell 3 times loose. After that, I've done a circuit on 10 other occasions. Pulled up 4 or 5 times. Narvan Lad ran a good race. He finished 11th, didn't get the trip. St Melian Fairway. He finished 4th in the mud. Got round on my first occasion. But I've had some decent rides in the race, but they just haven't been good enough. Now,
before we just quickly go into some of the horses, some of the leading fancies, just for the At The Races viewers, now, just tell us a few sort of pointers. We've mentioned, this old wives' tale that, 2.5 mile horses sometimes do well in the Grand National. Well, they might at one time, but they don't anymore. Are there any more?
I think you've got to go back quite a long time since the 2.5 milers did win the race. I think you've got to find nowadays it's a a classier race than it once was. You get a lot more horses, a lot of the better horses taking a chance, and I think you can take that view by just having a look at the weights now. Bottom weight in the National is going to be about 11 stone 7, which has never been heard of.
No, right. Now, let's just talk about Simon, because this is a horse that you miss out on. He fell in the race last year, fell at Valentine's, seemingly going very well.
He was doing very well. He travelled really well during the race. He jumped pretty well most of the way around. It was the first fence he got completely wrong, which you can't do in the National. But horses who've run in the National before and fallen don't have a bad record in the race, so he's got a very good chance.
I mean, he's been running pretty well. He got rid of you one day at Cheltenham at the ditch. He's normally a pretty safe jumper. Normally pretty safe, a little bit low at 1 or 2, but usually gets away with it, which sometimes in the National you want a horse that's economical and not going to be too bold and come down on his head a little bit. So if Dominic's been and ridden him at home, he gets on well with him. So he's ridden him once before as well at Bangor, so he knows the horse, which is a big help. And it's a good point you make that horses have got a good record that have gone to the race and fallen, then the next time they go, we've seen lots of horses, just off the top of my head, West Tip, they go there and then the next time hopefully they get it right. They learn. I think that's the key thing. They learn from mistakes they've probably made going around there before, but he's a type of horse who's he's had to start at the top this year, and he's acquitted himself well. Andrew, we've just said that he's got the experience round Aintree, which is a necessity, I think. He stays very well. What are the negatives? The negatives are probably the ground. It looks like being good ground. He really thrives on soft ground. But when you have a look at quite a few of the other horses, they'll be in a similar sort of situation. The only difference is it is 4.5 miles. They do go half a stride slower, and the turf up at Aintree, they'll make sure it is genuine good ground. Okay, right, well that's the horse side of things, because obviously Andrew knows about that, and a man who knows absolutely nothing about horses, but he knows plenty about stats. Let's go back to Matt Chapman.
Don't know what you're talking about, Luke. I know everything you need to know. Get the whip out and whack if you're in with a chance after the last fence. That's my motto for the Grand National, and I tell you what, if I was a jockey, I think most jockeys will be doing that if they've got a chance. The only one I can think of recently who perhaps didn't was Rough Quest, given that cajoling ride by Fitzy, of course, who then said magnificently afterwards that it was the best feeling he's had since, well, the last good night. Let's check out the stats on the Grand National. Plenty to bring you here, Luke. Now then, every winner since Gay Trip in 1970 had won at least once over 3 miles or further. So there, wham bam, thank you man, goes the stat about 2.5 milers. No way, Jose. Red Rum is the only horse to have carried more than 11 stone 7 to victory since Freebooter, Luke, in 1950. So that means Madison de Burley on the stats can't really win, Turco can't really win, Ollie McGurn can't really win, Mr. Appointment you might as well forget, Nowhere shouldn't turn up for the gig, High Cloyd give up now, it can't win on the 2.5 mile stat and it can't win on the too much weight stat, and the former winner Hedgehunter gone. So that's ruled out a few for you. Oh dear, some of my big fancies have gone there. Right, no horse age younger than 8 has won since Bogska in 1940, and 12 of the last 18 winners were aged 10 or older. So experience, Luke, as in so many walks of life, absolutely key in the Grand National. We move on. Irish train runners have won 6 of the last 9 renewals. Could it be that the Irish trainers are better at fobbing off the handicapper than our boys? Are we more honest over here? 146 horses have worn headgear in the race since 1975, but only 1 has won. So despite the fact a lot of people say Aintree suits the quirky types, and let's face it, most quirky types have some form of headgear, it doesn't look good if you've got blinkers. Mind you, if I couldn't see those fences, I'd be worried too. 6 of the last 7 winners had previous experience over the Grand National fences. Again, experience so key in this race. So let's have a look at some of the leading contenders in the betting. Let's have a look where the market is at the moment. As we broadcast today, well, a lot of people think that Cloudy Lane could be shorter than 5 to 1, but as we speak on the website, Sky Bet, the red button people going 5 to 1, the anti-post favourite, £20 in hand, trained by a man who's got a little bit of Grand National history to his name, just a little, and also owned by a man who would give his right leg to own another winner of the race. Slim Pickings, 10 to 1. As we've said earlier, is a horse who has been proven over the big fences. Comply or Die, well, They say 2.5 milers can't win this race. Well, at least I do anyway. Luke agrees with me, which is a miracle. What about horses that need 20 miles? I'm not sure Comply or Die. He's fast enough. He's almost the opposite. Simon, will his jumping really hold up? I'm not so sure, but if he gets round, he clearly stays well and has got a bit of class, Simon. I don't think we've seen the best of this horse, 12-1. Bewley's Berry, can't have this on my mind, although has got experience of the fences. Chelsea Harbour, as I say, well, Tom Mullins and Davy Russell couldn't have given this horse more of a prep than they did last time out. Snowy Morning was the anti-post favourite when the weights were given, but I'm not sure. I know Tony, no, it's not Willie Mullins, isn't it, trained Snowy Morning? I know Willie thinks this horse will jump round. I'm not so sure myself. I think it's an awful jumper, Snowy Morning, but Willie says it's great. Mr. Appointment, well, I think this is a big price for a horse who loves the fences. Let's not forget this horse was favourite, and a hot favourite, to beat the Grand National market leader last time. He had his problems there. Mr. Appointment will please many at 16-1, Luke. But what will please you?
If you shut up and let our guests tell us what's going to win the race. But no, I just talk about Cloudy Lane, because obviously he comes into this race in red hot form. Andrew, he looks a handicapped snip coming into it, and I know he seems to be improving rapidly, doesn't he?
He does. He does look a handicap snip, but you've got to remember a lot of horses coming into here haven't run since the weights came out, so you don't know how much improvement there is in those horses, whereas this horse, he's shown us what he can do. He came here this day at Doncaster on fairly decent ground, which he's going to get at Aintree. Beat a good yardstick in Ungaro, who didn't jump particularly well this day at Doncaster. He unseated in the Racing Pros chase very early on. So whether that maybe took the edge off Ungaro, having gone to the Racing Post 4 days earlier, and he's run a great race there. But you can't take it away from Cloudy Lane. His jumping is his forte.
I'm just
going to ask you very clean jumper.
Because he's only small, you know, like like Simon in a funny sort of...
Amberleigh House.
He's only small. He knows that he can't take a fence on and take a liberty with it, doesn't he?
He's careful. He does what you want a horse to do at a national, and that's not be too bold and just put himself right. And you see him giving these fences a little bit of daylight, which is what you want. Doncaster would be a good test. Flat left-handed track. He's won round Ayr, another flat left-handed track. I think key that horses that do enjoy flat tracks, some horses enjoy undulations to keep them interested, whereas this horse, he's proven, the McCains are proven, which I think is another reason why the horse is such a short price.
Well, Cloudy Lane, we saw in one of his victories there that way back in 6th was Mr. Appointment. He came back. There's been an excuse. He bled after that, so you could ignore that. He though does have form over the big fences and seemed to love it.
Key fact. A key factor winning over the national fences. I think the best thing you can do with the Doncaster run of Mr. Appointment is just you put a line to it, purely and simply because
that's all
the
you
horse
can
wasn't
do.
Right.
It's not ideal though, is it?
It isn't ideal, but he's had a long time to get over that.
Yeah,
he's had plenty of time. Put a line through it. He's good value at 16-1 now. If he hadn't run from his previous run of the national fences, he'd be in single figures now. He'd be probably second favourite behind Cloudy Lane. So I think from a value point of view, he represents a lot of value. Okay. He has got to get the trip, like a lot of other horses in this race, because you don't know till they try 4.5 miles whether they do.
Well, I'll tell you what, the horse who was chasing home that day, Bewley's Berry, must have got a good chance. Now, like Simon in last year's race, Bewley's Berry was in the process. He came down at Beeches second time around. He was in the process of running a massive race and plainly axed over these fences.
That's right. Paddy Brennan thought he would have gone very close. I came round a couple of fences later on Simon, but Paddy had just come past me going to Beeches, and he was travelling ultra well. And the only thing was he almost jumped Beeches too well second time. He didn't hit the fence. He knuckled on landing, which you do get. That does happen second time round. And he was convinced he'd have finished in the first 4. You can't say at that stage whether he'd have won, but he was convinced he'd have been thereabouts. And
crucially, Bewley's Berry, I think, is better on a sounder surface. He's won on really good ground. Now, a horse who's done most of his winning on very soft ground is Chelsea Harbour, and as Matt said, he looks as though this horse has been trained very much with this race in mind. We can see him in winning action here over 3.5 miles, so he's one of the few horses that's actually gone an extreme distance, but the ground was very, very soft this day. But again, he looks progressive, this fella.
He is progressive. This day at Punchestown, he had a tendency to jump left-handed, which obviously didn't help him round Punchestown when it had been a right-handed track. It won't bother him whatsoever at Aintree, but the only slight query might be that his 3 wins have been on really soft ground. But looking at him, the way he gallops there, he doesn't look like a horse to me who has to have soft ground. The problem with horses running in Ireland, most of the time they have to handle soft ground because that's all they get to run on. But looking at the way he gallops, he is a decent mover, a rangy type, and that was 3.5 miles. It looks like all he was doing was outstaying the opposition. Interesting
stat that Matt came up with, that 6 of the last 9 winners have been trained in the Emerald Isle. Why do you think that is? Is that just a coincidence or what?
I think you find that trainers in Ireland, when they've got the national in mind, they run their horses over hurdles and don't expose them so much to the handicapper. Whereas over in England we tend to keep our chasers over fences. I think people are starting to come round to the fact that the likes of some of the horses in the field this year, that they have been targeted over hurdles. They've had a lighter campaign, whereas the Irish have always targeted the national as one of the main targets for the season.
Well, I'll tell you a horse then who definitely has been trained like that is Slim Pickings. Now, he ran an absolute blinder in the race last year. Now, this is an informative race. This is over 2 miles 5, having said that, at Leopardstown. And Chelsea Harbour's actually finished 4th, but you've got the likes of Bailey Bees, Black Apple actually in the high grass in this field as well. But Slim Pickings has done precious little wrong this year without getting his head in front, Andy.
No, he's been, like you say, he had a run over hurdles before this to tune him up. Slim Pickings, he's run a decent race, but you've got Chelsea Harbour just in front of him, coming past him in 4th, over an inadequate trip.
Yeah.
Ideal preparation for both these type of horses, running them over short of their best. You don't want to bottom a horse before he goes into the national. I think both of them have got an outstanding chance in the race because their target all season has purely been the national. There's been nothing else in mind.
OK, well, I know someone who's certainly got the Grand National on his mind, and that's the champion jockey Tony McCoy. Now, he's had the choice of quite a few rides here, but he's gone for Butlers Cabin, a horse that we know who stays because he's won the Irish National. How much do you think Tony McCoy really wants to win this race compared to, say, the Champion Hurdle or the Cheltenham Gold Cup, Andrew?
Well, he's been there and done it at Cheltenham, but the National has eluded him so far. And he's had the choice of 2 in the National, Butlers Cabin, which he's chosen, which, as you know, he stays very well. He won at Punchestown this day. Before that, he'd won at the Cheltenham Festival over 4 miles. You know he's guaranteed to get the trip. This has been this horse's target all year. He's had a very light campaign. He ran over 2.5 miles at Leicester, which was far too short for him. He ran at Wincanton the next time, which Wincanton takes a lot of jumping round, and he had a good pop round that day. There was only 6 runners behind Norton Brook. This has been his target. This Tony McCoy will be hoping this is his best chance. He won't like me saying this, but he hasn't got too many more opportunities to win the race.
What?
He is getting on. He is getting on.
That's rich coming from you like this. No, I mean, blimey, yeah, I'm looking at, look at some of the, you know, Carl Llewellyn, for instance, experienced, he won, wouldn't he?
60, wasn't he?
No, wait, look, no, he looked it, but no, come on, he's only 34 or something.
He's 34, he's got a few more years, but the clock is ticking. He's had 12 chances. It hasn't happened yet. He hasn't had the luck in the race so far. He got brought down at the Canal Turn. He's been going well a couple of years when the horses have come down. He got ran out going to Beaches one year. Just
very quickly, Andrew, I mentioned Carl Llewellyn. There are certain jockeys that have got a very good record in the race. Do you think it suits a certain type of rider? And Tony's a very aggressive rider. Tony Dobbin, for instance, got an excellent record in the race, hasn't he? Yeah, and you might say that it suits a quieter type of rider, but then again, John Frankham never won the National. So I think you need a lot of luck. There's 40 horses in the race. More often than not, there's a dozen with chances. I think Tony's probably ridden horses that are 7 or 8 to 1 chances. That they're 7 or 8 to 1. They're not 9 to 4 shots, which you ride day in, day out, and you do need the luck. Okay. Now, we've been narrowing horses down. Comply or Die is one that we haven't mentioned. Now, this fella, we were saying about horses, worried about horses not staying, and I think for that reason you can knock out 3/4 of the field. But this horse, we know, will stay, and this was a real war of attrition, wasn't it? He will get the trip, but Matt did come up with the stat about the blinkers, which he has got on. He is guaranteed to stay. He's come back to form this year, wasn't in great form last year. Is touch wood, he is a very sound jumper and a very clean jumper. To me, he looks a very genuine horse, even with the blinkers on. He obviously just
his mind was wandering a little during his races, and they've sharpened him up no end.
Two things. The form of that race has turned out absolutely terrible. 12 horses have come out of it and haven't won. And the second thing is just watching him jump, Andy. He's very, very careful. He runs in close. He looks very calculated the way he jumps. Will he have enough scope? Will he have enough sort of enthusiasm?
Will he be brave enough?
Yeah, exactly. This is what I'm getting at for the Grand National.
That is one point. He's a very clean jumper. You wouldn't want him to go and rub a fence, and that would just probably put him off. You've got to take that into account. Timmy Murphy's chosen him instead of Vodka Blur,
Vodka Blur, yeah.
Vodka Blur. To me, he won't stay Vodka Blur. This will be the main reason why he's chosen Comply or Die, who is guaranteed to stay. And you obviously do have to question the jumping, but you don't know till you go there.
Yeah, OK, well, there's some of the leading fancies for the Grand National. But let's go back to Matt Chapman and see what he thinks about some of the outsiders.
Yeah, let's have a look at the prices, Luke. Fascinating, isn't it, what you were saying about the jockeys? If you think that we could have a Grand National that hasn't been won by Frankham, hasn't been won by Scudamore, and might not be won by McCoy, three of the great jockeys in my book, it just shows you it is a race of luck rather than skill in my book. But let's see about the big prices, because if it's a race of luck, then just about anything could win. McKelvey, well, that horse has been proven round the fences, 20 to 1. Point Barrow definitely will stay the trip, 20 to 1. King John's Castle, not so sure about that one, to be honest. I was amazed by the anti-post move. Has been given the old traditional, now one can say traditional prep over hurdles, but I'm not sure it jumps well enough, King John's Castle, to be honest. Hedgehunter, well, of course, can't win on the weight, but definitely loves the track, former winner, and certainly won't be putting people off. And of course the ground will be crucial as far as the weight is concerned, Luke. If the ground came up good or faster, then carrying weight becomes a lot easier. Lamy 25 to 1, well, on its form with Corto Star at Newbury last season, would have every chance and didn't run too badly at Cheltenham. 25 to 1 shot. There are worse horses as far as class is concerned at that price. Kalami 25 to 1. One good run, of course, at Kempton. Monmouth 25 to 1. Filson Run. I'm just not sure the ground will be testing enough for Filson Run. 25 to 1. Darge on 25s. Turco got Richard Johnson on board. Andy Stewart, of course, had his first Cheltenham winner. Maybe he could have his first Aintree Grand National winner. Joe's Edge has class at 33 to 1. And, you know, as an outsider, wouldn't put you off that. 33 to 1, Joe's Edge. I'm amazed that Andrew doesn't think that a horse like Vodka Blur won't stay at a big price, 33 to 1. Did, of course, beat Madison de Burley and Alderburn in the BGC Silver Cup over 3 miles at Ascot, but maybe he's right. The rest of his form is over shorter. So Vodka Blur, for me, looks a bit of a plodder at 33. He's nowhere. Well, a lot of people thought that might slip into a place in the Gold Cup. That was due to come rattling up the Cheltenham Hill and has done so should plod around in its own time. Fundamentalist, though, meanwhile, a bit like Ollie McGurn, could be a bit frightening going to the first fence. I'm not sure I'd want to be on Fundamentalist. Scary. Very scary. Worse than the worst ride at Alton Towers, that one. Norton Brook at 50s. Hi, Cloy, if you're going to go for a non-stare, 50 to 1. Opera Mundi at 50s. Poor old Mr. Hurrigan, he won't be pleased. Madison de Burley at 50s. Flintoff. Oh dear, looks like out first ball for that one. Can't have that on my mind. Noir at Ver, leading man. I tell you what, Burnt Oak Boy does have a bit of class but can't jump. Would be one of the favourites to come down in the race at somewhere around the trip. I'm afraid, poor old Burnt Oak Boy, very unlikely to get round that one, you'd have thought. Joachim 50s, that will stay, but probably isn't good enough. Wonder Kid, if it got a run, that wouldn't be impossible. Has been running, of course, over the cross-country fences at Cheltenham, and Wonder Kid would be my best of the big outsiders. So those are the prices, Luke. Fascinating running through there. Well, you have horses like Lamy. It is your chance to back quite a quality horse at a big price, but ifs and buts, as you'd expect for outsiders. They were sort of the kind of rides you'd be looking for in the race.
A bit safer than that. But Lamy, as you say, sort of in your mind, isn't it, when he ran so well behind Corto Star at Newbury. But Andrew, what about now? We've all been talking about, and I tend to agree with you. I don't think Vodka Blur, to me, he's much better horse over 2.4, 2.5. But of course, the ground's going to help a lot of these horses. If it comes up good, it's going to help a lot of these horses stay, isn't it? And even like the top weights, like Hedgehunter, you know, get round. I
think we talk about the likes of Hedgehunter, and we say he's got too much weight. But there's plenty of these horses, they might not have won, but there's plenty of these 11-7 plus horses that have finished in the frame which you've got to take that into account. I'm sure Hedgehunter, when he finished second, he had plenty of weight, so he wasn't beaten an awful long way. I think that you can't totally rule him out, especially this year with the handicap being compressed, where it's never been like this before. I think the lightest was about 11.4, 11.3. Last year was the lightest weight, whereas now we're looking as though it's going to be 10.4, 10.5.
Yeah.
It's going to be 10.7, 10.8 this year, which the top weights they only have to give £18. It's not like you've got to give £26 to the bottom weight.
Well, the Hedgehunter ran an absolute stormer last time. He ran at Ferryhouse behind a fistful of dogs. Of course, was supplemented for the Cheltenham Gold Cup. You had Snowy Morning, who was much more fancied. He was the 4 to 6 favourite on this occasion, Snowy Morning, but he disappointed. And I think that Hedgehunter, he's fallen in the race. He's won, he's second. The ground was probably too soft for him last year, so he comes into this with an impeccable record.
I mean, this run here has obviously swung it for Ruby, which horse he's going to ride, because he could have ridden Snowy Morning, who was anti-post favourite for a long time. He could have ridden Turco, who's got a decent record so far this year, finishing second to the Listener. But the way Hedgehunter ran this day, I think Ruby's thought, well, he's obviously coming back to form. He knows he's a horse who likes the national fences, which is a big plus, and he's shown him enough to suggest that he's going to be bang there or thereabouts.
No, you shouldn't be gutted if you get Hedgehunter, I don't think, in your each-way sweepstake. But what about Snowy Morning, who disappointed there? Now, for me, this is a I hope I'm in Booper ride. I mean, this is I can't have this on my mind.
The only thing you would say that, maybe say that by quite a few in the field, but this horse has ability, but he has yet to prove it in England. He seems to...
oh, look at this.
He's still got round, though. But if he gets round in the National, he's got to be bang there, because he's a young horse. He has little experience, but you have had horses in the past who don't jump particularly well round park fences and park courses, have gone to the National, and it brightens their ideas.
When I was riding for Addy Tennell, Mary Venture, he was looked upon as one of the worst jumpers in the yard. Good horse, a bit like Snowy Morning. He went to Aintree, and it scared him, and he jumped really well there, much better than he did on a park course.
Would have scared you as well.
God, it would scare me if I was riding Snowy Morning, that's for sure. Well, just talking about Turco, because Turco's got form with Snowy Morning as well, and, well, it would put you off that Ruby Walsh has turned him down, but he's got a good jockey in Richard Johnson on board. How do you think Richard would get on with Turco?
Well, Richard's brave. He will... You've got to remember, though, with these French-style horses, you have to just let them do their own thing. He's a decent horse. He's been lightly campaigned so far this year. His form behind the Listener was absolutely rock solid when he went to Ireland, and he's got to have a decent chance. Obviously, the weight is the big factor that we're going to talk about again. He's got 11 stone 10 to carry, lots and lots of weight, but the horse is in good form. He's one of the Paul Nichols's horses, which Paul doesn't often target the National, but this looks like to me that this is the one horse out the yard that he's chosen to give it a go, and he did everything in his power to try and get Ruby to switch from Hedgehunter to Turco, so he obviously thinks he's got a great
Would his
chance.
age worry you? I mean, on those stats, a horse is only 6.
He's only 6, but I think you've probably found that there's not so many French-bred horses taking on the National, but the only thing that would worry me also is that French-bred horses don't have a great record in the race.
Okay. Right, what about the horse King John's Castle then? Because Tony McCoy could have ridden this horse, and Matt was saying earlier on that there was been some money for him, and I think that was really when punters weren't quite sure which horse he was going to ride. What do you think of this fella's chances?
Obviously, this has been his target. He won over hurdles last time out, but this time you can see him.
This is at Clonmel,
yeah. Again, he's yet to win over. He's yet to win over. Extended beyond 2 mile 3.
I know, I can't have this. Cannot have this horse.
It's going to be a big ask.
Yeah.
Big ask. He's still got to prove it over 3 miles plus. But the thing that would worry me slightly is that AP has discarded him.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, he just gets headed here, and this is over 2 miles and 1. There, he has been second over 3 miles previously, but I don't know. Again, there's too much against this horse, I think.
He's obviously shown a lot of speed at home, because he's only been campaigned over 3 miles, I think, once. And the fact that he ran over hurdles and won over hurdles at over 2 mile 3 last time out suggests that, the National isn't for him.
Okay, right, let's continue the Irish theme, because what about the chance of Point Barrow? Now, this is a horse that we know does stay, because, of course, he won the Irish National. What do we think about this fella, then?
Point Barrow and Dundoir have obviously got their form is closely linked. He's the sort of horse he's been very consistent.
He fell at Aintree, though.
Well, that's the only problem. He has a taste of the national offensive. We have
literally tasted them.
We've tasted the dirt. We have said before that horses who've fallen at Aintree before have got a good record, but I'm not sure he's quite brave enough for my liking.
Right, okay. And Dundry, Tony Martin's horse, again, not certain to get into the race, but a horse, he's got ability.
He was a fast improving handicapper 2 years ago. He was on a roll at that stage. Again, for me, I personally just don't think the horse is going to be good enough, and I think he's the type of horse who thrives in the mud. If it was soft ground, heavy ground, I'd give him a chance, but personally I don't think he's quick enough for even over 4.5 miles. I think he'll get taken off his feet. Okay, well, we're talking about Tony McCoy discarding horses. Of course, Timmy Murphy had the choice of a few, and he's gone for Comply or Die, turned down Vodka Blur. Now, you and me and Matt all disagreeing about Vodka Blur. I think he's much better over 2.4, 2.5, but as Matt points out, this is a horse who has won over 3 miles at Ascot, which is a stiff track. Yeah, stiff track, but his best form is over 2.5 miles. He did come back to something like his best on this occasion at Ascot, but for me, he's a genuine 2.5 miler. I just feel at Ascot, you got to bear in mind that nowadays with the new configuration of the track and the different layout, to me it is a sharper track and a lot quicker track than it used to be. It's a dead 3 miles, and the straight is obviously a lot quicker than it ever was with the nature of the surface. I don't think he'll get the trip. He's one of those horses. I think he'll be. Matt was talking earlier on about Ollie McGurn. Who's going to be up there. I think he's a type of horse I'd love to ride for 2.5, 3 miles in the race, because he's a fantastic jumper. He's got plenty of scope, hasn't he, Vodka Blur? Now, I think he'll love it. But after you've done 2.5 or 3 miles, you'd also love to pull him up. Yeah. no, exactly. Yeah, well. Go back in the ambulance, I was used to that. Right, what about Mon Mone then? This is, again, another horse who we know is going to stay, because we've seen his performances in the Welsh National. Well, he actually ran over hurdles last time, but which obviously they're just giving him an Irish-style prep, if you like. But what about him? I just can't see him being quite good enough. Well, he's had a light campaign this year. He had a busy time last year and ran in some very decent handicaps last year. And without winning, he had some great place form in the big races around Warwick. And this year, after this run here, he ran in the William Hill at Cheltenham. Lamy finished third in that race. He got tailed off halfway through the race and then started to stay on again and ended up finishing 6th. He's one I wouldn't discount at a big price. He's had an easy time this season. Whether this race has been the plan all year, I don't know. But he showed enough form for me last year. He is a good jumper, and I think he'd give you a good run at a decent price. Okay, let's just quickly run through some of the other leading fancies. Alan King's horse, D'Argent, has had a wonderful season. Looks like he should stay, but for me, the issue, jumping. You say jumping, his best form is around Warwick, which does take a lot of jumping. Yeah, but that is his best form. When you look back through the form figures, I think he's won 3 or 4 times around Warwick. The only the similarities is the left-handed tracks. The 5 fences down the back would resemble the 6 fences that you've got at Aintree. Again, he's French bred. He leaves the back legs a little bit low, which doesn't help you at Aintree, because obviously the style of the fence is the birch. It's spruce on top and it's fairly solid underneath. Fairly solid? For me, I don't think he'll enjoy it. No, he's only actually, if you look through his record, he's only actually fallen once and unseated once, D'Argent, but definite issues for me in the jumping department. Now, what about McKelvey? He ran the most extraordinary race last year and surely would have won if he hadn't broken down. But to get him back, I mean, normally a horse needs 12 months and then another 6 months to get fit, so they're off for 18 months. Well, this horse is back. He's had a couple of, pipe openers. Yeah, but I mean, they haven't exactly been inspiring ones, and Peter Burns has only just started to come back into form. But if he runs the race he did last year... He's obviously not going into this race in the same sort of form he was in last year. He was very consistent, run some decent races, 3 mile handicap chases. They've done very well to get him back. I think his price is reflected in the fact of his form last year, and people think that this has been the target. It obviously has been the target, but he isn't going into the race as in the same form as he was. I just put a line through him. I don't think he's in the same.
No, okay. Well, what about the horse that finished just behind him, Filson Run, trained by Nick Williams, who won the big bumper race the other day at Newbury? His horses are obviously in good form. So what do we think about him?
Filson Run might just sneak into the race if something happens to one of the principals as a reserve. He finished 4th in the Warwick National, ran a decent race. The ground, to me, he would need it soft. He'd need more rain. I could see him pinching 4th or 5th, but I don't think he's quite good enough to win the National. I don't think he's just that class.
Okay, right, we'll leave you. Just mull over, because we want your 5 against the field. So whilst you're thinking about those, let's go back to Matt and get his 5.
Yeah, thanks, Luke. Now, a couple of things just to add. 13 of the last 17 winners have started in the first 8 in the betting, so leading contenders have a great chance on betting, and no French-bred horse has won the National for 99 years, so if your horse is French-bred, you're in trouble there. Now, I'm going to throw all the statistics out the window because, of course, we've never had a Grand National before like this Grand National. Good ground with a compressed handicap, 10 stone 9, possibly the bottom weight. A race like this has never been run for the Grand National before, and therefore, for me, the stats go out the window. Incidentally, as far as stats are concerned, they may go out the window in the Grand National for me, but not in all the other races, and we'll provide you with stats on the website, all the W's at theraces.com, for every single race at the Grand National meeting. So, with the stats out, these are my selections that are coming in. I'm going to go for your winner, Missed Appointment. That's going to be the winner for me of the 2008 Grand National. Proven over the fences, got a huge weight. Sam Thomas, a season to remember. He's going to do the Grand National Gold Cup double. I'm going to go for Hedgehunter to be in the first 4 because I think he loves the track. The ground will be okay for him. He'll jump round, and he's got Ruby Walsh to school him round as well. I put Simon in. Dominic Ellsworth is the man of the moment for many people at the moment. He's riding so well. So Andrew Thornton's loss could be Simon's gain if Dominic can perform the Oracle with him. I put him in the first 4 if he jumps around. I am worried about his jumping. Slim Pickings has been there, so I think you've got a good chance of getting around with him. And I'll go with Chelsea Harbour, who's clearly, for want of a better word, completely not off last time out. So, Missed Appointment, the winner for me of the 2008 Grand National. You'll say, look, Cloudy Lane nowhere. Look, if you're a once-a-year punter, you might be happy to back Cloudy Lane. But I think for most of us who can back 7-2, 4-1 shots in 8-runner hurdle races every day of the week, I'm not interested in Cloudy. I've left it out of my thoughts. I actually don't think its jumping is so good, Cloudy Lane. I think it will come down somewhere around the track. So Cloudy Lane will fall, the favourite. I can't have that at 4-1, though. Obviously, it is absolutely chucked in, but not in the first 5. Cloudy Lane, no chance.
Absolutely fantastic there. There's our stats man chucking the stats out the window. Right. Well, Andrew, what about your 5 then?
Well, I'm going to go for Bewleysbury, running a great race last year. Came down at Beechers. I'll forgive him for that. He's run well in the Beecher Chase behind Missed Appointment. I think he's been laid out for the race this year. Cloudy Lane, I'm going to put him in there. You forget about the price when you fancy horses. If you fancy a horse, I'm sure if this horse was 10-1, Matt would have him in his list. I think he's purely going on the price and the price only. He jumps very, very well. He is well in the race, which there is a lot of other horses well in. When that goes for the same with Comply or Die. One last time out. For me, he's guaranteed to get the trip. He has got the blinkers on, which is a bit of a down thing, but if he takes to the fences, he'll be thereabouts. Simon, couldn't discard him, running too well last year to keep him out. Saw the horse yesterday. He's probably slightly further forward in his coat this year than he was at this stage last year. The forecast for Saturday will help him. It's meant to be a cold, dry day. Got a little warm in the paddock last year, and he just got a little bit warm before the start and got revved up, so that'll definitely help him. And Slim Pickings finished in the frame last year. Horses who finished in the frame before have got a good record in the race. Good experience around the fences. I think we failed to pick up on that. He hit the last fence very hard last year and knocked stuffing out of him slightly and was still staying on at the finish. But if I was to pick a winner out of that, it's going to be Simon.
Right.
Because jockey Dominic Ellsworth, he's in very, very good form at the moment. And a big thing with jockeys is confidence. His confidence is sky high.
Yeah, you'll be in tears not all emotional tears, I suspect, as Simon comes charging up the run-in. But this is my 5 against the field, and I think Chelsea Harbour is the winner of the race. I really do. I just think he's been trained with this race in mind. He's won over 3.5 miles. Any rain that we can get is going to be a bonus for him. I think he's got an outstanding chance. Cloudy Lane, again, he's one of those, I can't see how you can't have him not in the money. He looks handicapped really well. Complard, I am worried about his jumping. I think he just might get a little bit far behind, but I think he'll be staying on. Again, same as Hedgehunter, if we get that decent ground. And also Simon, like all of us, we all think that Simon's going to be in there with the money. But, right, well, thanks very much. I suppose it's going to be mixed feelings for you watching the race, but should be exciting nevertheless.
Oh, it'll be an exciting race no matter what happens. Obviously, like you say, mixed feelings for me, but it's racing, isn't it? There's no point worrying about it. It's happened. There's always next year. Hopefully Simon will be around next year with a 1 next to his name winning this national.
Yeah, but look, Andy, thanks very much indeed. So let's hope that we've helped you a little bit here on the website. But of course, leading up to the race, you'll be able to get all the information here on www.attheraces.com.